For the past few weeks, I have completely switched from Cursor to Claude Code and learned a ton of things that made my Claude Code super effective. And today I will take you through how do I use Claude Code, how did I bring hero type of spec-driven development process, as well as tips and practical examples of how I use features like hooks, custom commands, and list of tips that made myself much more effective. So without further ado, let's get started.
But before we dive into that, I know many of you are just getting started learning programming. And one question I got asked a lot is, what does a roadmap look like for learning code effectively? That's why I want to introduce you to this free ebook made by Google's principal analytics lead and data scientist, where she wrote down all the secret tips and methodologies that she used to learn coding with Claude and ChatGPT, especially how she get an output personalized learning roadmap based on her specific situation. It also covers all the absolute fundamentals and basics of coding, like how do you choose the right coding language to start with, and best practice prompt for different coding scenarios, like debugging and optimizing the code, as well as a detailed roadmap of how to master a language like Python in just 4 months. There's even a custom GPT that has baked in all the core knowledge of latest package and learning resource that you can talk to, alongside detailed video tutorial showcasing her step-by-step work. So I definitely recommend you go take a look if you're just getting started with your coding journey. I put the link in the description below for you to download for free. And thanks HubSpot for sharing this awesome material with us.
Now let's get back to how do I use Claude Code. So first thing first, you want to install this Claude Code extension. And this will allow you to deeply integrate into your current IDE like Cursor, VS Code, or Windsurf. So now I can click on this Run Claude Code button, and it will automatically open Claude Code in my current IDE. And on the bottom right, you should see that it is detecting the specific file I'm in. And if I select some lines, it will also automatically detect it. You can still use the terminal here as well. And you can just do /IDE to choose the specific IDE that you wanted to connect to. Next, the first thing before you do anything is that you should run this init command line. So what this init command line do is that it will get Claude start analyzing your code base to learn about what already set up and what are the kind of dependencies, components that you should be using. It will also ask your permission to do something. For those type of commands like cd, I just don't care. I will just click on always auto approve, and you will see this thing is automatically saved as permissions. I know some of you actually want to get Claude Code always automatically run tools, and there's a way you can run that as well. You can do this dangerously skip permissions, and this will show you that it is bypassing all the permissions, so none of the tool it will ask you for permission. Though I wouldn't actually recommend this, because from my experience, one of the key advantage of the Claude Code UX is that it allows you to interact with Claude much better, and I will explain what I mean. Alright, so after it's scanned finish, it will try to create this cloud.md file. If you're using Cursor, that's basically your Cursor rules. And if we click inside, you can see that it automatically detects what are the kind of tech stack, what are the run build command, the architecture, the project structure, all the useful stuff. So this gives Claude a very good base to continue developing new things on top of this repo. And this cloud.md, as I mentioned before, is pretty much the Cursor rules. The only difference is that in Cursor, the rules are injected more programmatically, but for Claude, it's much easier. Basically, every single run, this text you define here is appended on top of system message. And I know there are a lot of people have different sorts of like Cursor rules that to enhance the workflow. For me, it normally is pretty simple. One prompt I do add in is this plan and review mode. This basically tells Claude Code that before we start working on the project, always in the plan mode to make a plan first. And for the plan, we want to save to this .cloud /task/taskname.md so that we can keep track of that later. And inside this task, we should kind of break down into different tasks. While Claude Code is doing its job, it should also update the plan as we go and append what it does into the doc. And this is really useful because it is almost always better to just align with Claude Code what exactly do you want. And this kind of also similar to Amazon's new Hero workflow as well, where they call it like spec-driven development. And what it does is kind of similar. It will ask it to go through the requirements and also kind of go through the architecture design, come up. It's basically the same thing, and obviously you can go as deep as like Hero, where you will break down this 3 steps process. But I often found it's effective enough to just do one kind of PRD. So I will save this. Now we can get Claude Code to start implementing our feature. Normally, the first thing I will do is make it plan. So I'll give prompt, we're building a beautiful online ID front end. Help me break down into key components and put them together in the end. And here I'm going to do Shift Tab. It will first get into this auto accept edits mode, but you want to Shift Tab again into plan mode. So this plan mode is a really useful feature. When the agent is in plan mode, it has this special system prompt and limited access to tools. So it will focus on doing things like web search to understand the latest like tech stack or documentations, and also planning the architecture. And in the end, it will generate final reports. And this planning sometimes will take a while. For any feature that is semi-complicated, I would always do this plan mode first, back and forth a few times to align the plan with Claude Code, and only after I will getting it start implementing the feature. So here you will see that it is showing task. When you see task, it basically means Claude Code is calling a sub-agent that is specifically doing this planning and research.
So at default, Claude Code has 17 different tools that can do things like run command line, read and find files, file operations, and web search. And this task tool basically means it will launch a new agent for keywords and file search. When Claude Code agent is calling this task tool, it basically is creating another agent that has almost all the tools except those planning related tools like task, to do. And this agent will receive a well-defined tasks from the parent agent, do a list of things, and in the end say, here are the findings. Only the last part, which is summary of the findings, will be sent back to the parent Claude Code agent. And this is one method they have to really save the token consumption for the parent agent, because otherwise the main agent might be flooded with all sorts of context. And knowing this, you can actually utilize this task tool a lot better. For example, you can actually prompt Claude Code to use task tool to set up multiple parallel agents to do different tasks at the same time. But also, if there's a task that you know already is going to read some very large files, try to prompt Claude Code to just use task tool to do this, because that will help you save the token a lot on the main agent.
So now I finished the planning and come back with a plan about what does the layout system should look like, file explorer, which makes sense, the code editor component, it decided to use existing library, and then it will break down into different phases. The phase 1 is just install everything, and phase 2 is implement the file explorer, code editor, terminal integration, and some advanced feature, as well as the project directory plan. So this is a pretty good plan, and obviously I can keep planning, but here I can also ask it to do this plan. And next is that it will create this detailed implementation plan in .cloud/tasks, and I will click yes. So it will create this task folder and create this online ID front end with the detailed plan and tasks. So now I can ask it to, let's do phase 1. And it will create it to do based on the phase 1 requirements. So while it is running, I'm just going to quickly talk about this to-do. So I was quite curious, how did Claude Code actually handle this to-do? Do they handle into a different like planner agent to just specifically come up with plan and programmatically get the agent to do one task after another? So I did some investigation. What I found is the Anthropic team actually took the simplest setup possible, but it's really effective. It has this tool called To Do Right. You will see the description is basically use this tool to create and manage a structured task list. They have a very specific prompt about like when to use this tool, when to not use this tool, some example as well. So every time when agent run this tool, it will try to come up a list to do, and each to do will have the content, ID, priority, and status. It is as simple as this. So now if we come back here, it finished all the to do. It will also going back to our doc and adding details about what it actually did. So it marked this as completed and also document all the things that it does. Cool. So it has this component implemented that it has this file explorer, resizable, it has terminal. I can add multiple different terminal as well. Nice. Obviously, you can see I can continue going because it already has a trace of the overall plan. So every time it just need to focus on one specific piece of work. And if there any time when the plan change, we can just prompt it to update the stock. So this is kind of my like doc or spec focused workflow with Claude Code. But what's really cool about Claude Code is that you can customize Claude Code in a very deep manner. So one super interesting feature is hooks. So hook is a feature that allows you to define things to happen programmatically when Claude Code takes certain actions. One of the most basic and common hook that I use is this stop hook. So I can define a rule here. When Claude Code stop, which means it finished the task, you try to run this command, which will basically play the system sound to notify me that the task has been completed. So with this one, if I just send a message to Claude, it will play this notification sound after the task is finished. So this is basically a simple concept of hook. But the interesting thing is that the customization here can go pretty deep. Claude Code allows you to define things to do before or after certain tool is run, or when user try to send a new message to Claude Code so that you can ingest some additional context in, as well as when Claude try to compress the conversation history or when a sub-agent finishes task. And here's a more sophisticated example that I found actually pretty useful. So I can define this post-to-use hook that every time after Cloud Code run a edit, multi-edit, or write tool, which means it modify or create some new files, it will run this Python file I defined here called type check. So this feature that I probably missed the most from Cursor is that in Cursor, it has this automatic linked arrow detection. And this is really useful context so that Cursor can capture those arrows even before you run the code and proactively fix issue. But for Cloud, it didn't have this. And this hook will basically replicate that functionality directly. So inside this Python file, it might look a bit complicated, but I will quickly explain to you what that means. So we'll firstly try to get input data. Each hook comes with a list of different inputs that you can use. For example, for the post to use input, it will automatically give you a list data that you can use in this, like which tool it is, what does the input agent generate for this tool, and what's the output of the tool. And in our case, we want to get the file, so we know which file agent just created or modified. Then we'll get a file path. And if this file extension is TS or TSX, which means it's TypeScript, we will run the type check. And if this type check failed, this is the part where we can send feedback back to Cloud Code. So you will do the print, and the file will be system std arrow. Here I define the ASCII code to be 2. So ASCII code 2 means that it is a blocking arrow, and std arrow will be fed back to Cloud Code so that it can use that to define the next actions. But you can also define other ASCII code that will still send message back to Cloud Code, but it won't blocking it from continue the next action. So with this hook, if Cloud Code generates on files that has type arrows, it will automatically call the script and return back an error message if it has any type. So Cloud Code can try to proactively fix the issue. So this is how hook works. And there are a lot of potentials. For example, you can even define some critic agent. After Cloud Code write any code, it can write a test and validate it. Or if it write an API doc, you can automatically update the documentations. I have included a few common hooks that I use a lot in AI Builder Club, so you can go and grab. If you guys want a more deep dive of hook feature, please comment below, let me know. I'm happy to do another one. And on the other side, Cloud Code also have this commands feature, where they do come up with a list of predefined commands like check cost, set up MCP, memory, models, and review PR commands even. But they also allow you to define custom / commands. For example, I can create a commands folder under Cloud and just create something called joke MD and make a joke in all caps. Once I did this, I can do / and search for joke. Then this command I defined here will be showing up. If I click on that, whatever you define here in this command will basically be sent to Cloud Code almost as a prompt. Then it will start behave based on the rules you define there. I have another video where I talk about different commands that I predefined that can help you extract specific styling from a screenshots, as well as getting Cloud Code into design mode to design multiple different UI iterations. And you can even have a command to get a Cloud Code to set up multiple different Git worktree to have sub-agents working in parallel. So you can go check out this video if you want to learn more. And there's one package I saw that's pretty useful recently called SuperCloud. It's an open source package that comes with a bunch of commands that they predefine and build. For example, I can do / command sc analyze. This will trigger that command that take Cloud into a much deeper code analyze mode. It will create a list of to-do to look through the whole code base and come back with a kind of architecture review. There are other useful things like you can run workflow to look at a PRD doc to get Cloud into kind of step-by-step implementation process, as well as build command that will help bundle and npm build your projects, as well as troubleshoot if you have some weird bug that you don't know how to fix. So this is a really useful package. Even though the installation is not that straightforward, we'll need to open a folder, do uv init first to set up a Python project, and then do uv add supercloud. This will add the supercloud package, and in the end do uv run python supercloud install. Then it will take you through the step-by-step installation process. But once you install it, will be installed at global level, so you don't need to keep doing this. And all the file will be basically saved to your .cloud settings at user level. If we open it, it will basically add stuff into the cloud.md, which link to all the different files that contain more details. And inside this command folder, you can see all the commands that they define here. So this is kind of a quick example of how far the customization you can do with just command feature. Meanwhile, there's a list of very useful feature and shortcuts that Cloud Code has that I didn't know initially. Firstly, I can do /resume to jumping back to a past conversation history and continue the conversation there. This is kind of similar to Cursor where you can choose a past conversation. But on the other hand, they also introduced this export command. So this feature will allow you to copy the whole conversation history with Claude Code. So you can jump between Claude Code, Cursor, Windsurf, or any other coding IDE, because you just need to paste in conversation history and no need to worry that Cursor don't have the context about what has been done. And quite often, I will also go to Cloud where I have unlimited amount of token to do some early exploration. Apart from that, another really useful feature is that you can double tap exit, and this will allow you to revert back conversation history to a past point. So you can just click that and continue the conversation from that point. This is really good because sometimes Claude Code will make mistakes, and this can avoid it. The only downside is that if you're in Cursor, when you revert back to a past conversation, it will automatically revert back all your files as well. But Claude Code didn't keep a snapshot. So you actually need to use some external package to do the snapshot and versioning. One of them is called CC Undo. So this is a package that will automatically detect all the changes that Claude Code has made to your file and allow it to roll back. So I can do CC Undo and the list. This will list out all the changes that your Claude Code has been made. And you can do CC Undo preview to see the specific change that Claude Code has been made. And then once you confirm, you can do CC Undo, Undo, and select the change you want to revert. So this package can work with Claude Code hand in hand pretty well. Though the command line might not be the best and easiest way for you to preview the work. There are more user-friendly versions like Yo-Yo where it will save a snapshot. And you can add some additional instructions to remember what the changes are. Another quite useful shortcut is that you can type in the acceleration mark. This will get the Claude Code into bash mode. So bash mode allows you to run command directly without going outside Claude Code. So I can do quick shortcut like pm install or pm add certain package. And it will just run the command directly here. So it is really fast, but also the more important part is that this context will be part of conversation history so that Claude Code will know what are the actions that you've been taken. And similarly, you can also do hashtag, which will activate the memory mode. So here is where you can type in things that you want Claude Code to memorize. Like I'm Jason, we're building an online ID using chassis and component. And then it will ask you to choose where do you want to save this memory. It can be project level or it can be user level across all the projects. And once you confirm, it just save that information to the cloud.md. And the last part, I also want to show you the easiest way for you to connect Claude Code to Kimi K2 model. If you don't know, Kimi K2 model is a new open source coding model that has similar performance like Cloud 3.5 to Cloud 4, but 80% cheaper. So it is really good one to experiment if you run out of credits. And the easiest way to set up is that you can open terminal and do code, open this .zshrc file. If you're on Mac like me, you probably just do this. But if you're on Windows, you might need to change to bash. This will open a file like this. So this will basically control your terminal behavior. So here I will define the Kimi API key, but don't worry, I already disabled this key, so it's not going to work for you guys anymore. And I can define Kimi where it will export entropy-based URL to Moonshot using this API key and run cloud. So with this one, I can just go to my any terminal and then do Kimi. This will open Claude Code with the special model that I defined there. So if I type in hi here, it is actually going to talk to the Kimi K2 model. And similarly, you can also define things here like Claude bash maintain project working directory to be one. What this will do is that basically every time when Claude is running, it will always append the current working directory into the prompt. So it will always remember where it is instead of running command in wrong place.
So here's a quick overview of how I use Claude Code. If you want to learn more, you can join AI Builder Club, where we have weekly sessions to talk through the latest workflow and tips for AI coding and build large language models, as well as all detailed rules, hooks, and commands that I personally use. So you can copy paste directly. In upcoming weeks, we'll have more detailed breakdown of how does the Claude Code actually work behind the scenes and try to rebuild Claude Code from scratch so that we can learn the best practice of building effective AI coding agents. I put a link in the description below for you to join. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you, and I see you next time.